So I found out a cool app through Harley-Davidson. I don't know if you guys know this exists or not, but I just found this out. It's the HD app, and this is what the app looks like on the phone. But the cool thing about it is it has a bunch of different ride challenges and stuff that you can do. And then it also tells you like some events and everything that's going on kind of in your area, kind of some rides that it recommends also near you as well. But what I've been focusing on, since this is Labor Day weekend, they had a Labor Day weekend riding challenge. It's basically just riding 100 miles, and which isn't much, I know, but still something pretty cool to do. So I've actually been doing that. I've actually gone over that goal. I've hit about 154 miles, and I think that counted starting, it might have been Friday, and going through today, which is Monday. So just seeing how many miles you can get in. Obviously it ranks you, I think I'm number 1621 out of however many people, like over 5,000 people on there. So just something kind of cool to do on your own if you want to do some of these riding challenges and stuff. It's just something cool I checked out, and it's super easy to do. All you basically have to do is hit this little ride button down here, and then you could just record your ride and it'll keep track of your miles through your GPS. The only downside to it is it does drain your battery. I've been riding pretty much for a couple hours or so, and it drained my battery down to 35%. So keep that in mind if you are tracking your ride on here. It is tracking your GPS, so it will eat up that battery life, but just pretty cool, something to do. And then if you do find a cool route that you take and then you want to share that for other people to do as well, I know there's some other apps out there that do the same thing, but I just downloaded this recently since I got the HOG stuff in the mail, and I think I got something in the mail regarding this app, so I figured I'd check it out. So if you don't know about it and you do have a Harley, and then you could obviously select what bike that you have and stuff like that. So pretty cool, something to check out. Like I said, the challenges, I mean, you get a digital badge or something like that, so nothing crazy or cool, but just something else to kind of do and keep track of the rides and kind of where you go and stuff like that. So I'm going to keep tracking this to see how many miles I could rack up on this weekend. Probably not a whole lot more since it is towards the end of the day, and I do have a fantasy football draft to do at 7:15, so got to be back in time for that. But I've already hit the 100 miles, so something pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and get back on the bike and we'll chat about a couple things. It is a beautiful day. It is Labor Day and lots of people are off, but the weather is perfect. We had a little bit of a heat wave, but now it's like 70 some degrees and there are bikers out everywhere. Pretty cool to see all the bikes out and everything. So again, all I have to do is hit record ride, and then it'll just kind of record the route you take, how long it takes you. It'll show you the speed limit if you keep it open, and then your distance. And then if you stop somewhere for gas or anything, you can just hit pause, and it'll pause it until you hit resume again, and it'll continue on with that ride that you're doing. So pretty cool. We'll just go ahead and keep that on just to rack up those miles. So I've just been out taking some different roads that I haven't been on before. It's been kind of cool. I found some pretty cool areas. I mean, it's still out kind of outside the city, and it's a lot like this, honestly, but just some cooler roads with some cooler views. There's obviously people that live out here with money and have some nice spreads, so it's kind of cool to check those houses out like that. Like, it's kind of cool to own that. But definitely found some cool back roads, which I like. I like these backcountry roads, just staying away from traffic and all that stuff in the city. Even though most of the time these are all straight roads, they're still pretty cool to check out every now and then and not have to worry about all the traffic. Although, if you've seen, I think it was a couple videos ago I did, you definitely have to watch out for animals jumping out at you. I had a dog chasing after me. At first I thought he just jumped out, but after reviewing the footage, nope, he was just chasing after me, as dogs do. Oh shit. All right, that that was scary. Almost hit a dog right there. Dang. Oh shit. All right, that, for some reason dogs don't like bicycles or motorcycles. It's funny, if there's like a bigger dog and a smaller person, it's funny watching them trying to hold the dog back as it's trying to chase after us. So something that I actually did on Friday is, I've been talking about how I've been looking at those Yamaha MT-07s or MT-09s, And those are really hard to find in this area at a dealership. You can find some private party, but what I want to do is I want to go test drive one to see if I even like it. That, like, never been on a sport type bike, only the cruisers. I've had this 23 Lowrider ST and then my Sportster. I did a demo ride on the two different road glides, the 23 and 24s. But other than that, I mean, my bike experience is on Harleys, but I would like to branch out and kind of see what else is out there, and even, you know, see if I would like a sport bike someday. So this dealership in Shawnee actually had two MT-07s, and unfortunately they were brand new, so they didn't have any used ones, but I got to go up there and sit on them, and they had a bunch of different sport bikes up there. Kind of their thing is they had a couple Harleys that were used, but pretty much they have a bunch of sport bikes, and that's kind of their thing, along with like four-wheelers and stuff like that. But I was looking and talking to the guy, you know, I want to kind of branch out, check out these sportier type bikes, and I asked, I'm like, well, do you guys do test drives? And he said no, like on sport bikes we don't do test drives, which I don't know, if I'm gonna spend the money on a bike, I would like to test drive one, especially if it's a different platform than what I'm used to. Although I can't have an asterisk there because I did buy my Sportster without ever test driving it, but so I can't give them too much crap for it. But I mean, since those are all brand new bikes, Harley would have let me test ridden the Sportster, but at that time I didn't have my endorsement, so I wouldn't have been able to anyway, but at least they would have let me. Whereas this place was just straight up, no, we don't allow anybody to test drive sport bikes, which, I don't know, I guess I get, so, you know, people don't do dumb stuff on them, but again, how are you supposed to know if you're going to like the bike if you can't test drive it? I don't know if it's just because they also want to keep, you know, the miles down on those bikes or what. So yeah, unfortunately, I did not get to test drive one, even though they had it. They had an MT-09 up there, which was what I really want to try out is the MT-09, but it was sold, had a sold sticker on it. It's like, man, I know I bought a bike without test riding it, but now that I have my endorsement, I'm not buying another one unless I test drive it. And there were a couple other sport bikes up there that he recommended. I'm like, that's cool, I got to sit on them, completely different feel. So that's why it's like, I do want to test drive, because if I were to ever want to eventually get one someday, I want to know what it's going to feel like without, you know, just buying it and then not liking it. But he's like, oh no, we don't do test drives, but you know, if you buy the bike and then within like the first 10 to 20 miles you end up not liking it and nothing happened to the bike, you can return it. Which I'm like, well, that sucks. I don't want to go through the whole process of buying the bike just so I can test drive it. I don't know, I thought that was interesting. I don't know if every dealer is like that. I would imagine not, but for some reason this specific dealer that mainly deals in sport bikes won't let you test drive them without buying them first. So let me know if you guys have had that issue, if you're into sport bikes or, you know, whatever, if you've ran into that situation to where they, for whatever reason, won't let you do a test drive. You got to buy it first. Super interesting. But again, I don't know, maybe if it's just because they're new, maybe if they're used, I don't know, but he just flat out said sport bikes we don't allow test drives on, so I'm assuming that meant used too. But he did mention that some of the manufacturers do demo rides earlier in the year. Unfortunately, that I'll have to wait until next year to look into that. But I'm definitely in no way looking to get rid of this Lowrider ST. I'm really, you know, not in the market for another bike. It's just one of those things to where it's like, I would like to try out some other stuff, you know, outside of these demo rides, because of course I could ride every Harley, you know, bike that they have, but you know, I've kind of want to branch out outside of the Harley brand. There's an Indian dealership across the street from our Harley dealership, and they do test rides. Maybe I'll look into that, maybe test, you know, get on a couple Indians and see what those are like. Unfortunately, they do have a bunch of used bikes that aren't Indian, but they didn't have the Yamaha bikes I was looking at, or else I would have tried to ride them through there. I think that place you can. I don't know about the sport bikes, but I know the cruisers they let you test drive, so maybe I'll keep my eye out and see if they get a Yamaha MT-07 or 09. and see if they'll let me test ride it up there. Again, I just want to see if it's something I would be interested in. I mean, the pegs felt weird. They're further back than these mid controls, but they're not as far back as I thought they would be. But the whole thing with no fairing and you're, sitting different, and the tank is like right on your chest. I'm just gonna see if that's something I would even like or not, because this bike is super comfortable. But it's crazy how much lighter weight those bikes are. I mean, it's probably half the weight of this bike, and when you pick that thing up off the kickstand, you don't feel that weight at all. It is so lightweight. Yeah, it's less cc's than this bike, but realistically there's a lot less weight, so it might seem faster than this bike for sure. And these Harleys don't like to rev high, so that'll be something I've got to get used to, is doing higher revs on a sport bike. But again, maybe it probably was for the best, because I tend to, if I would have liked that bike, I tend to get myself in bad situations where I do impulse buys. So at the end of the day, it was probably a good thing they didn't let me test ride it, because I would have been like, yes, I want one now. And I was at the dealership for one of their bike nights, and the guy's like, oh, we're doing free test rides. You want to test drive something? I'm like, I absolutely want to test drive the Road Glide again, and maybe the Heritage, but no, because I know myself. I know I already want a Road Glide. That's just going to keep making me want one. So yes, I want to test drive it, but I'm going to turn it down, because I don't need to want for another bike like that. Yes, I could trade this in, but man, I really like this bike, especially since I do mainly ride around the KC area. I haven't taken any like crazy road trips or anything, and this bike is perfect for that. It's lighter weight than the Road Glide. It sits higher, so you can corner better, and I don't know, it's smaller, easier to handle. When the Road Glides are great, they handle fine, and you really don't feel that weight once you start going. But again, it's just a bigger, heavier bike, and for the around town stuff, this bike is much better and pretty much made for that. So I don't know, maybe I should have done it just to get more time on a Road Glide. But the Indian dealership did have a BMW R18, which I've been wanting to just see one of those in person. There's been some bigger YouTube channels that I've been watching, and yeah, they have some stuff on the R18s, but not a whole lot of people own those bikes. There is a BMW dealership somewhat near us, but it's kind of in the ghetto, so I don't actually want to go there. But even them, I checked their inventory, and they didn't have any R18s, and rarely ever do. So they had this Indian dealership had a 2022 R18 first edition, and I'm like, oh man, I want to go test ride that. And I went and sat on it, and man, that thing has some weight to it. Like, fairing is mounted to the actual forks, so you have that weight in the handlebars. But yeah, just try to pick that bike up off the kickstand, it definitely could feel the weight. And I'm like, this bike doesn't look as cool as I thought it did, so maybe I won't take it out. Plus, it was in a position to where they would have had to move a bunch of bikes to get it. And I'm like, I'm not seriously looking at this bike, I just want to test drive it to do it. So I'm not gonna make them move a bunch of bikes just so I can test drive it. But it was cool to see him in person, and it's just a different setup, how they have their the heads on the motor versus the Harleys and stuff like that. So I do wonder how well that does keep the heat off your thighs and stuff. And I'm not sure what the first edition is. Like, maybe there's I don't know how many editions there are, but I know the fairing on the windshield on the fairing was not motorized, which I think some of them do. I don't know if maybe that's another generation, but this fairing was the windscreen was fixed like it is on a Lowrider ST. And those R18, since they're full on like touring bikes, that 2022, yeah, it was used. It only had it had less than 2,500 miles on it, and they were only asking like a little over 15,000 for that, which is $10,000 less than what I paid for this ST, and this is only a year newer. So I definitely think definitely more bang for your buck with that BMW. Again, first edition, I don't know if maybe that's just a standard model or what, Might have to look into those, but you definitely get more for your money, it looks like. At least the strip club gives its dancers Labor Day off, apparently. I just got a notification today on my Facebook that I had posted a picture 2 years ago of the delivery of my Sportster. So it's crazy to think that it's only been 2 years since I've been riding and buying that first bike, and it got delivered by the salesman. Since I didn't have my endorsements yet, they wouldn't let me drive it home, obviously, so luckily I live pretty close to that dealership, and the salesman drove it home for me, and I just gave him a ride back in my truck to the dealership. But it's funny to think, man, time flies, and it honestly does not feel like it's been 2 years since I've had that bike. You know, it feels like forever ago that I had that Sportster. But so I bought it it got delivered September 2nd of 2022, and then I ended up buying this bike, I think Memorial Day weekend, or right around there, of 23. So I definitely did not keep that Sportster long enough, which I'm like, man, I don't regret buying that bike at all, but I really wish I would have bought a used one for a lot cheaper instead of a brand new one. But it was a good bike to learn on, like I've said. No regrets about that, but buying the new versus used, I have a little bit of regrets. And it's crazy that I've got over 8,000 miles on this ST now. Now I know a lot of people are like, that's not a lot. You know, I put 8,000 miles in, you know, a season. Yeah, that's great. But I don't do long distance trips. I mainly just, you know, ride around town like this. Really no destination of mine. Just take it out for an hour or two. Or if it's a really nice day and I don't have anything going on, maybe a little bit longer. But I'm still staying, you know, within the vicinity of where I live. I'm not taking it on a trip. But, so, you know, over 8,000 miles of just doing that, to me, that I feel like that's a lot. Definitely would not have been anywhere near that on that Sportster. That thing was not fun on roads like this, or even the highway. That thing, I took that out on the highway a couple times. I'm like, no, this bike is not made for the highway. At least with the stock suspension. Maybe if I would have had better suspension, it would have been a little bit different. But man, any bump you hit, and there's a couple big ones on some of the highways around here, man, I felt like I was going to fly off the back of that bike. But not this one, which is why when I do take it out, it's on pretty much at least an hour or two at a time. And like I said, sometimes I'll take it out for errands, or if I have a destination, but most of the time it's just out here riding around like this, just enjoying the weather and kind of clearing your head and everything like that. It's so much fun. You know, I love the fact that fall's coming, but I also hate that because that means winter's coming.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming!
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
Now, I'll still take this bike out in the winter time, but it's few and far between because, you know, if it's not, you gotta wait where it's not snowing, and then I hate that because then there's salt all over the streets, and then you gotta worry about that on the bike and trying to get it washed off so it doesn't rust. But yeah, I mean, if it's above, like, if it's like 40 or above, I'll definitely take the bike out in the winter time. It's just ugly. I mean, everything's brown and dead, and you don't get these nice views and stuff. So especially right now, like in the fall, with all the fall foliage, probably taking up, my wife wants to go up to Weston, Missouri, where I took a trip to on my last video, and it's just really cool. But then when you ride in the winter, everything's dead and ugly, and usually the sun doesn't make an appearance very often. And like the fairing and everything, like I'll have a jacket on with like a windbreaker inside, so I really don't feel much wind or anything on my chest. You know, I'll put on like a sweatshirt or something underneath and I'm fine. Like my torso and everything's fine. The only thing on me that gets cold are my legs. I usually just wear these jeans, and yeah, after a while you start feeling that cold air on your skin, and that kind of sucks. But other than that, I mean, the rest of me stays pretty warm. Like I don't even need heated gear with that jacket and a hoodie, and then, you know, obviously this fairing keeps a lot of the wind off your torso. I don't really have a problem with my hands getting cold either. It's just my legs. And if our hands do get cold, just stick them down there by the engine for a minute. They'll warm up real quick. One thing that I want to do, and I just found out that this existed, is there's a junior college in town, and that I used to go to many moons ago when I was in college. But the same college, which is a junior college, does have basically a beginner's intro to like motorcycle maintenance. I can't remember the title, but basically what it is it's a class that you take. It's only like $154, and it's on Thursday nights. And basically you go up to their automotive division or whatever, and it's basically all about learning the basics on doing motorcycle maintenance. Like anything you would need to do to maintain your bike, they teach you how to do, which I think would be cool. And honestly, $154 is less than what it would cost to have a dealership do any of the maintenance on this thing. So I'm not too worried about it right now, just because I do have the service plan that I included. But whenever that expires, I definitely want to look into doing the maintenance on this bike myself, because Harley-Davidson charges way too much. But obviously I am not a mechanic. But I know you could go on YouTube and search a bunch of videos and everything like that, but I don't know, I'd rather be taught in person. And if I can take a class, and again, I think it's Thursday nights, and it's not even for a full semester, like maybe half a semester or something like that. But if I can go to a class and work on a bike that's not mine, and they could show me how to properly do things, I definitely would learn a lot better than just a YouTube video. I don't know, I'm more of I'll watch it, but then I also got to do it as well. And I don't want to start doing something on the bike, because it seems like anytime I try and do something, it always goes wrong. Like even if I'm trying to install something super easy, if something happens or doesn't come up or something doesn't fit right, and it just snowballs. And that's why I'm like, man, if I do any like maintenance or anything crazy on this thing, I know something's gonna happen and I'm not gonna know what to do. Or then you got to watch other videos and try and search for somebody that had the same problem, and it just snowballs and takes forever. Whereas, you know, if I can learn how to actually do it in person, you kind of know what to expect in the process, and then come to my bike and do it. I don't know, just think it'd be cool. And just, I mean, getting to work on motorcycles seems pretty cool anyway. And, you know, $150 basically to learn that, I think it'd be definitely worth it. And pretty much, I mean, they'll kind of, that way you kind of know what tools you need as well. I mean, I think almost everything I would need to do most of the maintenance on this bike, but you know, I haven't done it yet, so maybe there's something that I'm missing out of my toolbox that I would need to do, you know, the fluid changes and stuff on this. And you know, I want to extend the handlebars and stuff like that, but then you got to mess with the brake lines. And a lot of people are like, yeah, it's super easy to do yourself, you know, just watch videos. That's great, but like I said, anytime I do something like that, you know, things just snowball. I could figure it out, but it'd be super stressful. Whereas, you know, learning that stuff in person by instructors and stuff would definitely make me feel a lot more confident to say the least. So I think taking that course, getting, you know, to know more about motorcycles, how they work, and actually doing stuff in person, learning that would definitely go a long way. And then, you know, maybe I could do a lot more work on the bike myself, save a lot more money that way. I mean, that's really the only thing holding me back from changing out the handlebars, other than, you know, not knowing exactly what size and what I want to do. But the whole process of changing out the cables is expensive to have a dealer do it. So if any of you out there have taken a similar course or even knew about those, let me know, and if it was beneficial. I'm going to try and get my buddy to do it with me. He's the one that actually brought it up and was like, hey, look at this. I'm like, well, that's cool. So yeah, if I could definitely get him to do it, we kind of take that class together, that'd be kind of cool. Thursday nights, go learn how to work on bikes, that'd be kind of fun. So yeah, still have that app up and it's still tracking. Been going for about 37 minutes now and coming up on 30 miles, which isn't bad. So that'll be another thing to tack on to that Labor Day weekend challenge. Again, really nothing that you get out of it other than this, you know, digital coin or whatever the hell they give you, but just something cool to show that, you know, you put miles on your bike and just kind of seeing where you go and actually how long. Because there's times I've ridden and I'm like, man, kind of want to know how far I went and how long I was gone, and you know, I don't keep track. So it's kind of cool to have an app that keeps track for you. There's another one what is this? Relive. That is pretty cool too. And the cool thing about that one is it actually records your ride to where it uploads it in a video. And you know, if you want to add that to like a YouTube video or something, you can kind of show your trip, and you can take pictures of like stops along the way. So that's another cool one. That's free as well. There's a paid version with some more stuff, but hell, I've just been using the free one, and it's cool because it'll again track how far you went, how many miles, and then at the end of your trip you get this cool little video clip that kind of follows every move that you made and stuff like that. So pretty cool. So if there's any other apps out there that you guys recommend, let us know down in the comments. Any other cooler ones for motorcycle trips or destinations or whatever, anything that you guys recommend, let us know down below. Man, this bike is so fun. It is very hard to go the speed limit on this thing, that is for sure. But if you guys like these types of videos, hit that like and subscribe button so you can be notified when I come out with more stuff on this Lowrider ST. And who knows, maybe one of these days I'll be able to try out a sport bike to see how I like it, and I'll definitely be sure to bring my GoPro with that. So again, thanks for watching guys. We'll catch you in the next video.